Hey there, I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate.
And today we're taking a look at Aurora by Rampage Games.
Aurora is a little card game that's coming to Kickstarter here in the near future. So make sure to check out that Kickstarter campaign link down below in the description of this video. And do note that everything you see here is prototype. The final artwork and components may look different when it is released from the Kickstarter campaign. That being said, this is a simple little card game for 2 to 4 players in which you are building solar systems, or stellar systems as it's called in this game. And you are doing everything from the big giant stars such as the sun, all the way to the teeny tiny life forms that inhabit our Earth and plenty of other Earths out there. And so this is a very broad game of things that are going on in this, but it's not as complicated as it probably seems on the surface. Let's take a look at it down below, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, here's Aurora, a star system building card game for 2 to 4 players. Let me show you this game. And I do want to make sure to let you know everything you see here is prototype, so the final artwork and components may look different. But this is a card game in which you are mainly going to be trying to play these stellar cards, which are stars. And these stars come in different varieties here. And on the bottom of these star cards, it's going to show you what you're able to play off of them. So for instance, this Class F star here shows you that it can play a gas planet, a large rocky planet, a small rocky planet, and you can play up to any combination of 2 of these off of this one stellar card. This is like the sun in our solar system, for instance, and it's applying itself to 2 of these particular types of cards. Whereas this Class B star can be used for any number of large rocky planets or small rocky planets. And you can see that there are different varieties here. But anyhow, you are playing these stellar cards in front of you in your play area to ultimately be able to play these planetary cards. And you can see here that it will show you what kind of stars you would be able to play this small rocky planet off of. And that is a B star, an F star, a V star, or a binary star. And then in the blue boxes here, it will show you what cards you can play off of this small rocky planet, such as some of these cards: moons, comets, asteroids, and atmosphere cards. And ultimately, these cards right here are going to be the cards that allow you to play cards that are bacteria and viruses and organisms and such, small life forms that will ultimately help you to get to bigger life forms such as herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, which will hopefully help you to get to sentience, such as language, tools, and fire. And if you are able to get this far in the development of your system that you are building, your stellar system, then you might meet one of the win conditions, which is intelligence. If you can get this card out, having made the trek all the way through these kinds of cards, and there are several other cards in this deck. I don't want you to think that this is all the cards there are. But if you can play intelligence here, you win the game. Victory condition. That is one of the ways to win this game. Let me explain in more detail how this works. Players are going to get 7 cards dealt to them from this deck, and they're going to be a combination of these cards here as well as some of these event cards that you might play. We'll come back to these here in just a second. But on your turn, and players are going to do this simultaneously, you can play any one stellar card, so that's the stars up here, or if you've played a stellar card from a previous round, you can play any number of cards to 1 stellar card. So, for instance, if I have this Class A star already on the table, I could play any number of these cards right here that might work towards this Class A star. Or, alternatively, I could start a new stellar system by playing a new star. But I can only do one or the other. I can only build off of one that I've already started or start a new one. After you play all of the cards you're going to play, players then have the opportunity to play one event. And the events come in two varieties. You've got your red ones here, which are kind of take that. It's going to be something that you do towards another player. And you've got your green ones here, which are going to be good things for you, replacing some of your cards with one of these kinds of cards and letting you reuse these cards, good things like that. After you've played all of the cards you're going to play, do any events, then you have to decide which cards you're going to keep and which cards you're going to pass to the player on your left or right or however, whichever direction you're passing. And normally you only get to keep 3 cards, so you're going to have to choose wisely which cards you want to keep. And the way you win this game, as I mentioned, there's one way you can win, which is getting this intelligence card, working towards that. Another way that you win is by fulfilling objectives. At the beginning of the game, all players are going to have 3 objective cards dealt to them. And they might say things like develop a gas planet, or a large rocky planet, and a small rocky planet within the same stellar system. Or perhaps acquire 20 water. We'll come back to what that means here in just a second. Another example, evolve a virus from a large or small moon. If you can fulfill 3 objectives, and these are all kept face down, so your opponents are not going to know what your objectives are as you're working towards them. But as you complete one of them, you'll flip it over and you'll announce to the table, I've just completed this because I have 20 water. And if you are the first player to complete all 3, you win the game. So that is another way you win. The last way you might win the game is if you're able to get 14 of each of the 4 different resources there are in the game. There are going to be little icons here on the far right side of a card, and the C stands for carbon. And so you want to try to get 14 carbon. Another one is oxygen. You want to get 14 oxygen. Another one is water, 14 water. And then last but not least is going to be DNA. You see that little DNA symbol right there. If you can get 14 of each of those 4 different icons, then you win the game. And so back to our acquire 20 water here, you would complete this objective if you had 20 water on the cards that you've played. Anyhow, that is what you're trying to do in this game. It's a race game. You're trying to meet one of those objectives to win the game before anyone else does. And if you are the first to do so, then you're the winner. And that is how you play Aurora. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Aurora. And so Sam, you as a non-gamer, when you saw this on the table, what were your first thoughts?
It looked a little complicated just because there's a lot of iconography on the bottom of each card. And so just trying to, and it took my mind a second to kind of figure out exactly what each one worked. I had to keep asking Lance, so this is what it has on there, so that means I can play this. I don't know why it took me, because it is not very complicated once you get into it.
Right.
But just the beginning and kind of wrapping your mind around it took a second.
Yeah, I think the best way to kind of teach this game is to help folks understand this card evolves into this next card, and that can evolve into this next thing. Kind of like a food chain, sort of. That, you know, the herbivores need leaves to be able to eat, and the carnivores need herbivores to eat.
And the cards do make it very clear there's just some thinking that goes into it.
Yeah, and I think the big thing about it is there's so many different icons, so many different types of cards in this game that at first glance it does seem to be a little overwhelming. But the main understanding component to all of that is just that if it's a red icon, that's something that you need to be able to play this card. If it's a blue icon, that's something you can play because you've played this card. Yeah. And once you get that understood, I think this is a very simple to understand game. Now, that being said, winning is not easy in this game. There are multiple ways to victory for each player. And so in a sense, it's almost asymmetrical because my win conditions are different from yours. But unlike a lot of asymmetrical games, that means you've got to learn how to play the game from different ways, which is really difficult for non-gamers. You don't have that with this game. It's pretty much the same idea, just from a different angle, if that makes sense. And I think it works really well in this game. What did you think, Sam?
I do too. I've said this on numerous games. I think it's good for non-gamers to play games where you don't know who's winning throughout the whole thing. I had no idea where Lance was on his objectives.
Right.
And he had no idea where I was on mine. And I feel like that helps a non-gamer because you don't have that push the whole time. Oh, I'm losing.
Right.
Oh, I need to do this.
Yeah.
There's still that rush because I didn't know how far along he was.
Yeah.
But you don't feel that loss from losing throughout the whole thing. You just find out at the end.
And I think because of that, this makes for exciting finishes with this game because any turn someone can win.
Yeah.
You know, not the first 3 or 4 turns likely, but from that point forward, literally anybody can win. They can play that intelligence card, boom, they've won immediately. Or they can get to the 14, peak of all of the different requirements, the oxygen, the water, and everything else.
There were different ways of winning. And it was pretty funny how it turned out because Lance said, okay, I just finished this objective. And I said, okay, I just finished all 3 of mine on the same turn.
She did all 3 of hers on the same turn, which, I mean, that's what I mean. This game can be over like that.
But for a non-gamer, that was a big win for me to win a game. It felt like it was a big win.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen often. So I do think that there's some luck because you don't know what kind of cards you're going to get.
Sure.
But at the same time, you really have to pay attention to what you can do because at one point I didn't know how I was going to get one of my objectives. And then you kind of start to be, oh, okay, well, I can play this card and this can turn into this, can turn into this, and that's how I'm going to get that objective.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Sam, because I think there could be a number of gamers out there that see this game and think, well, it's all luck dependent upon what cards you get. And there is some truth to that. But I will say this game hinges upon a player's ability to be able to say, I'm not getting what I need to go for this objective. I've got to bail on that and start working towards this because there's, as we've been saying, there's multiple avenues to victory in this game, and it's on the player to figure out which avenue is the best one to be taking with the cards you have in hand. And that's where this game really shines, is challenging the player to figure out what you're given and how to best use that to get to the finish line. And ultimately, this is a race game.
And I thought the best part, the thing that they did the best in developing this game was the card play, how you kept 3 and you gave the rest to the opponent. You don't see that a whole lot in some of these card games we play, or that's all you see.
Yeah.
And then, so you're both starting with 3 that you want, then you have some for the other player, then you're getting, was it 6?
Yeah, you get 6 from the deck and you have to discard down to 8.
And you discard down to 8. So you have a lot of cards and you're have a lot of choices.
Through a lot of cards.
And I really thought that was great.
It keeps the game moving at a quick rate. I feel like there's not too many down turns where you're stuck with bad cards and you're like, man, I can't do anything with this.
But you would also think, you have 8 cards in your hand. That's a lot to play. There is still a couple, I know for Lance for sure, and at least one round for me where you're like, I have 8 cards. I can't play any of them, but I know I need to keep some of them because of what they can do.
Right, exactly. So there is a lot of enjoyable stress in choosing which cards to hold on to because you can only keep 3 unless you got the volcano, and then you can keep 4, and which great cards you're passing to the next player. I really enjoyed that part of this game. And so when you combine all of those different elements, you get a really excellent game, an excellent little card game that it can be played with 4 people and not a long period of time, and I think the theme is really cool too.
I like the pictures were great.
I thought the artwork and the design on these cards were really cool. Fits real well with the theme. So that's Aurora. I hope you guys enjoyed our thoughts on it. It's from Rampage Games. It's coming on Kickstarter, so make sure to check out that Kickstarter campaign by visiting the link down below in the description of the video.
Also, make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.